I'd like to welcome Madeleine Murray, who's a podiatrist, to talk about what happens to women's feet during pregnancy and after a pregnancy loss. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's such a great and interesting initiative.
Yeah, so we know that women's feet do change during pregnancy, but when someone has a pregnancy loss, we kind of just ignore what happens to a woman's body, or we don't really think about it because they haven't finished their pregnancy, but things can still alter.
Yeah, you're very much right. We don't understand what happens following a pregnancy loss, or it's not very well studied. What we do know is that there are changes to the feet during pregnancy, and this is sort of based on pregnancy studies from clinical experience and what women often report. So there are a number of different changes. We understand that your feet can sometimes get longer or wider, and they can often feel a little bit more tired than usual during this time. Your feet, you may have some swelling in your feet and ankles, and this can sort of last for quite a long time, both either during and then following a pregnancy loss. You might notice your feet to ache a little bit more. You may get a bit more sort of heel pain or arch pain, and this can be particularly prevalent after standing for long periods of time. And then you might even feel like you lose a little bit more of your balance because of the centre of mass that can shift often during pregnancy. And a lot of these changes are often linked to the changes that occur to our hormones. So we get this increase in relaxin and progesterone, and that can increase the amount of sort of laxity that we can get within the ligaments that surround the joints, and that can result in some of these changes that we see in terms of your foot posture and your feet feeling and getting bigger throughout this time. And these changes often don't just stop straight away following a pregnancy loss. They can linger and go on for a little while until things generally tend to return to usual alignment and your strength returns to sort of more of a baseline level.
I think the feet are really neglected in general. One of the things that I notice that if my feet are sore, it impacts my whole body, and I don't think we think about it that way. And so when you're already dealing with a lot, if your feet are then uncomfortable or sore or swollen, it's a really interesting concept. And I think that we need to talk more about women's feet when it comes to women's health, especially around this sort of stuff. So do you have any practical advice that women can use?
Yeah, so I think definitely not ignoring it. I think getting on top of it and making sure that you're looking at things like just general foot health. During pregnancy, you may get more blistering or corns due to those changes in pressure, and these can sort of, again, persist following a pregnancy loss. So looking after your feet, either seeing a podiatrist or someone if you do have areas of hard skin on the feet to have those removed. Making sure that you're wearing good shoes goes a really long way. So we want to make sure that you're in a well-supported shoe that has a good amount of shock absorption or cushioning within it. That might be anything like a sort of walking shoe or a runner, and there are a number of different sort of more supportive shoes out there that have been designed by podiatrists, like Baird, for example, a really good example of some sort of more dressier shoes if you don't want to be living in a supportive runner. And then looking at, with regards to that swelling, a lymphatic drainage massage may be helpful, and there are a number of different physiotherapists that can assist with that, or looking at some degree of compression garment that can be fitted for you to help with some of that swelling. They're just sort of some of the main things. Using a foot cream that contains urea, it's a natural keratolytic, so it helps sort of take away dead skin. It can be helpful if you're getting build-up of hard skin and callousing and those sorts of things, just to keep your skin integrity nice and sort of well hydrated.
Yeah, compression socks now, they're so much better than they used to be. You can get some really nice looking compression socks. They're not always those terrible white ones that we used to have. So there are different options.
Yes, yeah, lots of options.
Yeah, so is there anything else that you would suggest from a foot point of view? I do know that, and especially in Australia, that so many people wear thongs, but now we've got a whole heap of new thongs with arch support that have come out.
Yeah, so there's quite a big range of arch supportive sort of thongs out there. There's the Archies, Orthaheel are quite a good brand as well. And there's a number of different brands that have sort of followed suit with Archies that give a bit more support. Birkenstocks do provide a degree of arch support, but we have to be mindful that they are completely flat, and that flat sole is not always great. So making sure that you're wearing something that has a little bit more pitch to it is often helpful if you have got some arch integrated into the shoe. And my colleague Narelle's been designing some sort of more supportive Birkenstocks to give a little bit more support and pitch. So there's lots of different shoes and options out there in that regard. I think keeping some exercise in during pregnancy, following a pregnancy loss, to what you can tolerate would be really, really important. Keeping strong during those times with this increase in relaxin and flexibility that can often go with that would be really important to maintain some strength within your foot muscles and your calf strength. So making sure that you're continuing to sort of move throughout that time, I think, can be really helpful.
The only other thing that I think we haven't touched on is if you are having swelling, getting your feet up. And the other thing that I have noticed is lots of people just put their feet on a table where really we want them nice and high.
Yeah, elevating your feet definitely goes a long way to reducing swelling.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your insight, especially into feet because they're so neglected, and it's great to have that input.
That's great. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me on.